Welcome to CUCollaborate's Field of Membership Analysis software training video. We're going to walk through all the different ways that our software can help you learn how to expand your field of membership in the best possible way. In order to access the tool, which you probably have already found out in order to get to this video, but you need to come to the Field of Membership analysis on this left-hand navigation, and then go to either mapping, target segs, or keyword. And mapping is going to be primarily the way for you to research community-based charters. So community charters, rural area charters, underserved area expansions. Target segs is a way for primarily people in business development to look up employer groups that could be promising business development opportunities. And then the keyword search is a way to search through other credit unions, fields of membership for really any keyword. Typically that's used to search for business names or for geographic areas and things like that. But let's start with the mapping section. So if you come to the mapping section, and again, I think you probably have had to already find this to find this video, but if you go to the question mark in the top right corner, you can find the PDF guide for how to use the Field of Membership Analysis tool. You can also find a link to register for live training. We hold one monthly training right now, and you can access this video that you're currently watching. When any credit union comes to this tool, the enabled checkbox will already be here, and your own credit union should fill as the sort of primary point of comparison. The other thing which I think a lot of people miss here is in the search in map, you can search for any location or business name and also for addresses. So if you're considering placing a branch, you can type in an address here and it will plot where that address is. So if you're looking at an underserved area and you're considering a specific branch location, you can plot the pin for that branch and see where it falls within that area. But if we go back, then you can also show your own field of membership rules. So in this case, I'm pretending to be Lafayette Federal Credit Union. We can see the field of membership rules that are based on locations. So anything that's defined, these ones are defined primarily by Census Tract. This one is a place. So places are towns, cities, villages. In some states they have more unique names. And then you can also look at the organization-based rules, which would be basically plotting where select employer groups are. And we can see where all of Lafayette's employer groups are located. Then we can also place the credit union's headquarters, branches, and ATMs. And you can see the pins here, and they'll be color-coded to tell you exactly what each one is. And then if you want, you can also show boundaries of different locations. So now we're showing state boundaries and county boundaries. And we can leave all of this showing, so we can continue to show where the headquarters are, where the branches are, when we go in to look at new ways to define the field of membership. But for right now, I'm actually going to remove showing those just to make it a little bit easier to see exactly what's happening in each of the next types. So if we go to rural area expansion, this is really a type of community charter. You can only look at areas that are within the state that you're headquartered and the immediately adjacent states. Anything that is shaded in green, and there's a key for each one of these types of reports, and most of them will include shading, but the light green areas are areas that have a population density of under 100 people per square mile. The light red are areas that have a population density of over 100 people per square mile. You can change by changing the geographic boundaries, you're also going to be changing how you're defining the area that you are applying to amend your field of membership to serve. So typically most credit unions do this by county. You can, and I would encourage people to consider, even though it's much more labor intensive, but consider Census Tracts. It'll give you more flexibility in defining your area as exactly as you want. And this is actually going to take a really long time to load because we're so zoomed out and Census Tracts are tiny. But by defining your area by census tract, then you will be able to get as close to population caps as much as possible and make sure you're capturing the areas that you want to define the area you want to serve by, rather than just by going by sort of the arbitrary boundaries of counties. So you can be a little bit more exact and precise in how you define your area. The other piece to know is when you are applying to serve an area and you define it by census tract, the NCUA uses, and this is true for the rural area and the community charter, but the NCUA uses the 2010 population values because the census does not come up with annual population estimates for census tracts. They do for almost every other type of location type. So if the area you want to serve has grown in terms of population and you're defining it by county and it's just over the million threshold for the rural area, defining that same area by census tract, and you'd probably want to change it just slightly so it's not, quite frankly, as obvious that you're just defining the exact same area by census tract, but then it would use the 2010 data and not the 2016 data, and you could potentially serve the same area that you couldn't serve when it's defined by counties. So that's a little trick. But throughout the tool, and it's no different for this report, you can come and click or hover your cursor over any of these tooltips, and it will explain to you how the formula works for that type of field of membership expansion. So for rural areas, you have to keep your total population under 1 million people and the population density below 100 people per square mile. This is really a huge opportunity for credit unions, depending on the state that they're in and what their current field of membership is. But you can combine very metropolitan areas with very rural areas, and I should say, instead of metropolitan, I should really say densely populated areas. But by combining it with really sparsely populated areas, you can still achieve that threshold. You can keep the total population under 1 million and the total population per square mile under 100 people per square mile, and then it will work. So you can actually capture many major cities throughout the United States by combining both a city and nearby countryside. And a lot of this is, and this probably isn't the most accurate word, but I'm going to say sort of by gerrymandering sort of paths, pockets, ways to get from very densely populated areas to very rural areas, because the other thing that's important to know about the rural area field of membership is that you do not, with the regular community charter, you have to keep the whole area that you want to serve within an MSA or CSA. And with the rural area, the MSA and CSA and the definition of a well-defined community do not apply in the same way. So you can cross MSA and CSA boundaries much more easily. And with all of these, and actually let me reselect this, and I'm going to use counties just to make it a little bit faster. But for any of these, when you click on full report, it's going to give you all of the data that you would need to provide the NCUA for your packet. So let's pick a few counties here. And then if we go to full report, it's going to pull out all the information. It's going to give you the population. It's going to tell you all of the different financial institution branches in the area. We also track, this actually isn't necessary to provide the NCUA, but we have the data and we think it could be helpful for credit unions, but we can tell you what credit unions have fields of membership that apply to the same areas that you are trying to serve. We can give you demographic information on poverty rate, median income, unemployment rate, And then we can also tell you the source of the data for population estimates or the actual population figures for 2010 populations. And then you can export this all to PDF. And you can use this to attach to your business plan or marketing plan when you're applying to serve that area. So this should help you quickly pull together, evaluate what areas can work for you, what areas wouldn't work for you as well, and gather all the information that would be necessary to provide the NCOA to support your marketing and business plan to argue that you could effectively serve that area. I'm going to work my way up through these. The underserved area expansion works really largely the same way. So we have everything shaded again. The shading relates to different things for the underserved area. So the light green are designated underserved tracts according to the CDFI. So 85% or more of the population of the area that you apply to serve needs to come from these green tracts. The other piece here when you're seeing this, and that's why it's jumping between being shaded dark green and dark red, is that it needs to pass what's called the concentration of facilities test. So that basically means that there needs to be more people per branch in the areas that you want to serve that are at the beginning start shaded as light green than the areas that you either than an immediately adjacent area that's shaded light red if you have no tracks included in the area that you wish to serve, or than the average of all of the light red shaded tracks that you choose to include in your field of membership. So just define it. You can't just come in here and just say, I only want to serve the light green areas, and it's not guaranteed to work. As you can see right now, it's dark red. The other part of that test is the concentration of facilities test, which is really saying the number of branches per person. So you can see in the current selected area, which is the dark red area right now, there are 270.1 people per branch. And in the benchmark area, there's 552. And that's primarily, I believe, because this tract right here has a very high, maybe it's this other one. One of these tracts has a very dense concentration of branches per capita, essentially. So what you want to do, and it was that one. So what you want to do is make sure that you are defining your area to include essentially light green tracts on this map, so CDFI approved tracts that have few branches in them, and that way keep your basically selected area benchmark ratio higher than the adjacent area or the red areas that you include. It gets a little, Stephen, as you can probably tell, sort of difficult to describe exactly how it works, but the easiest way of thinking about it is, basically pick a lot of the green areas that you want to serve and play around with adding and removing tracks, and just track, each time you add or remove a track, just see how it changes really this number here, which is the selected area ratio for the concentration of facilities test, and just focus on adding ones that increase this number. So you see it's 481 right now. It went to 468, so that actually made it more challenging to get approved. So we can try adding a different one. That one raised the number, so it's getting closer. And that one raised it, so it's getting closer. And you can keep doing that. That one actually lowered it a little bit. I can actually tell you that this whole area has very few branches, so really we just need to work our way up into that area. And oftentimes, you're going to know these areas much better than anyone else, so you'll know what areas you need to include, and really sort of the best tracks to include to get that ratio up are places that are shaded light green and don't have many branches in them. You'll find both tracks that are shaded light green and have a lot of branches in them, and you'll find tracks that are shaded light red and don't have many branches in them, so you need to sort of play around with that a little bit. And ideally, you know the market that you're applying to serve pretty well, but this will help you figure out exactly what areas you can and can't serve, and really help you identify the best way of defining your market, because typically the way that credit unions are handling this right now without this tool is reaching out to the NCUA and saying, I want to serve these census tracts. Does that work? Having the NCUA run the concentration of facilities test, which can take a few days, and then coming back and being told no, and then adjusting it over and over again. And as you can imagine, when each time you're essentially doing what I'm doing right now, which is adding a census tract, you have to run it by the NCUA to calculate that ratio for you. It's going to be a very time-consuming process, which means usually most people are not actually ending up identifying the best possible way of defining the area that they would like to serve. The other thing I can tell you is, if you want to, you can reach out to us, and we're happy to do one-on-one calls and help you, walk through exactly what you're trying to accomplish through, expanding the area that you're serving, and help you find the best way of sort of defining that area. And again, we have all the tooltips that explain the formula. So if you are choosing areas that are all within CFPB designated underserved counties, then you don't have to pass the concentration of facilities test, so you don't have to worry about it at all. But if you, assuming it does not fall within one of those counties, then you do, regardless, a maximum of 85% of the population of the area that you wish to serve has to come from underserved tracts, and the total area you need to serve needs to remain under 2.5 million total population, which I think is generally not, it's not even really possible to get up to that 2.5 million in most markets. And then the last and probably most common way of looking at a geographically defined field of membership amendment is through a sort of traditional community charter. The community charter, the traditional community charter field of membership, has to remain under 2.5 million total population and needs to remain typically within a CSA or MSA boundary. You can see the CSA or MSA boundary here. It's the dark black line. You can go under special circumstances, do one area, one unit of the type of location that you are defining your field of membership by adjacent to the MSA or CSA. So in this case, if you're defining it by counties, you go one county immediately adjacent to the CSA or MSA, but you can only get that approved through the adjacent area authority. So you would have to provide supplemental evidence that the area that you want to serve is a defined, well-defined community. So you'd have to find some sort of external validation that the area you want to serve would be considered a community by some sort of pre-existing other entity, like a utility service or a newspaper or things like that. If we go to the other parts of the field of membership analysis tool, if we go to, for instance, target segs, this is going to allow you to pull out a list of employer groups, and you can filter based on different criteria. So you can put in search phrases, really the entity name. So if we wanted to put in, I don't know, Burger King, and we wanted to say, that are not a select employee group of another credit union, we can filter out Burger King locations that are select employee groups of another credit union. The other thing you can do is, if we take out Burger King probably, but you can filter it based on the industry type that the employer's in. So if we're looking at, we want to look at, I don't know, correctional institutions that are in Washington, D.C., and that are not select employee groups of another credit union, we could pull up that list. It will give you a list of all the different correctional institution employers in D.C. You can see different information about it. We try and provide as much information as we can. We purchase this data primarily. Some of it actually comes from government data, but a lot of it is purchased from third parties. So we cannot attest to the accuracy of the data, but we are gathering it all for the, for ways of defining credit unions' fields of membership. So you'll see that for some of these, we have the number of employees. For other ones, we don't. For some of them, we'll have fax numbers. For other ones, we won't. This is all meant to help give you ideas, let's say. I wouldn't encourage people to use this for just direct mail merges and send out, a direct mail campaign blindly using these addresses. I think for most cases, really what you should be doing is sort of generating a target list of select employee or potential business development opportunities, and then doing some more individual research on which ones you'd want to prioritize. So typically you could look at things like number of employees, and then do some additional research and see if you can find out if U.S. Prisons Bureau, in this case, what else you can learn about them before reaching out to them. But it's a way of doing some preliminary research, filtering out businesses that are not already SEGs of other credit unions, identifying larger employers than others, and you can search by range of employees, the actual street address or city or zip code or state. You can apply any one of those filters, and then you can export that list to a CSV file if you want to take it out of the program and manage the data in Excel. And then the last part here is the keyword search. So we can come in and you can search any string of text, any text string here that, let's see, Callahan. So we can search Callahan, and it will look up the word Callahan in any credit union's field of membership in the country. And so you can see there's a county called Callahan, and that will show up. So will companies that have Callahan in them, so R&L, Callahan Inc., which is apparently a employer group for Corning Federal Credit Union. But you can see any place where that word or that string of text shows up in a credit union's bylaws. So if you're trying to do some preliminary research on a potential employer group that you may be adding, or trying to identify possible merger candidates or things like that, you can research this way. And the other thing you can do is click to go straight to that credit union's profile, and then go to their field of membership rules and see the exact rules that they have and where that shows up. And I think that pretty much covers the whole tool. We are available, as you'll probably notice as we go through each page. We have this contact us chat box right here. So you can open that up and chat with us at any time, and we're happy to help you. And you can also just give us a call. Our number is 276-477-5077. Again, that's 276-477-5077. And we are happy to provide whatever support you may need. So please feel free to reach out if you need any help pulling together a field of membership that's defined by geography. I think it can be very helpful to sort of talk through with us how to sort of accomplish what you're trying to do. I know a lot of credit unions look and sort of go the easiest route, which is typically defining it by county, but you may actually just be trying to get a city within one county and then trying to get another city in another county. You can't add both counties, but you could add them both together by defining the whole area by census tract. So there are a lot of little tricks like that that could potentially help you, and we'll be happy to provide whatever expertise and knowledge we can to you in helping you target the exact area you want to serve. And if you have any questions about how to use the software or anything else like that, we're also happy to help in whatever way we can. So thank you very much for your time, and let us know if you have any questions or also feedback on how we can enhance the software, anything that we can do to make the tool more valuable to you, we will try and do in a timely fashion. So thank you very much for your time, and have a good day.